Welcome to the regular council meeting of Tuesday, December 2nd, 2025 at 4:51 p.m. We do apologize for the slight technical difficulty in council chambers and via Zoom. Item number 1 is call to order and a moment of silence. Item number 2, land acknowledgement. We acknowledge that the town of Kirkland Lake is located on traditional and unceded territory of Indigenous peoples. We recognize the presence of these Indigenous peoples in our community since time immemorial and honor their stewardship and care of these lands. We hereby affirm our continued commitment and responsibility to reconciliation. Item number 3, approval of the agenda, moved by Councillor Owens, seconded by Councillor Shaba.
Be it resolved that the agenda for the regular meeting of council held on Tuesday, December 2nd, 2025 be approved as circulated.
All in favor? Opposed? None noted. Item carried unanimous. Item number 4, declaration of pecuniary interest. None noted from the table. Item number 5, civic petitions. There are none this evening. Item number 6, delegations and presentations. Tonight we welcome Blanche River Health, item 6.1, improvements, challenges, and opportunities. And we'll welcome George Van Sly to the podium. She is the president and chief executive officer. Welcome.
Thank you so much. So good evening, everybody, and it's nice to be back. This is actually my second year in a row presenting about updates from the hospital, so thanks for having me. I'm going to spend about 20 minutes, right? Is that what I have to say? I do have a couple of annual report copies here and a copy of my presentation. So let me just start by highlighting the celebrations that we have at the hospitals. One is that the ER clock is now available online. So I'm not sure how many of you are familiar with it, but right now, if you go to our website and you can choose Kirkland Lake or Englehart, you can see how many people are waiting in the ER and what's the estimated wait time. So hopefully that's going to give you back a little bit more of that power and control when you would access the ER, only if it's not acute emergency where you will have to dial 911 as usual if that's the case. The other thing that I also want to share is that if you are now over 40, you can have access our early mammogram screening for women. Sorry, I'm full of jokes tonight. So it's my internal joking to myself anyway. So for 40 and above, you can now access the screening. Please just call the hospital and book your appointment. The other thing to share is that we also have now an automated way of responding to emergencies for the staff. So if there's a code, for example, fire, or something that we need help for, is now text away, where before we would spend 20 minutes calling the call tree line. Now we can just send a text, mass texting, and we can know within 2 minutes how many people are able to respond and what's their ETA. The other good news is that we also have voice language translation services, which means that if English is not your first language, you have over 200 languages to choose from. And all we need to do is call a number, and we have healthcare trained professionals that could use the translation services. In fact, in the last few months, we've had the opportunity to use the Spanish, Ukrainian, and I believe Arabic when people are going to an ER. So that's been very helpful. Another 2 good news is that we receive base funding for our non-urgent patient transportation services. If you're a member of the community, this may not mean much to you, but if you actually are admitted to the hospitals and you have to have an appointment, let's say North Bay, Sudbury, so that you can facilitate the discharge, this service is available for the hospitals in Englehart and Kirkland Lake. Last but not the least, we were able to get an approval for over $23 million to have our sewer upgraded. Sad to say, we're like a wet wipe away now from self-combusting, but we are having help, and you probably have seen the big sign in front of the hospital. That project is ongoing. As for the challenges, we are not without our challenges, and one of the main things that I need to highlight is that ER closure is still a possibility at any given day, unfortunately. We've been working so hard to recruit physicians, but at this point, we're not to the point where we can mitigate ER closure. In fact, it's a weekly conversation for us at the hospital. And what that means for the community is that you will not get a lot of notice when this has to happen. It means that you can wake up one morning and then you can get a notice from Facebook that ER will be closing for a few hours or a few days. It really depends on the vacancy. So that's the challenge that's happening, and we're really working hard to mitigate that risk. Which leads to the next one, financial situations of many hospitals in the north, even all of Ontario, is still not in a very good state. Over 90% of us are facing deficit situations, and which means that there's a lot of tough decisions that we've been making from day one, and we're really working actively with the government to be able to find a long-term solution to this challenge. Our buildings are over 50 years old, so as you can imagine, the maintenance and upkeep for those kinds of structures is massive. And recruitment is still a challenge, particularly clinical roles like physiotherapists, respiratory therapists, and of course, the general physician recruitment. Now, what are the opportunities that we also have for the community to support? So I'm not here to ask for money yet. At some point, maybe I will again. But really, there's opportunities to bring back volunteerism at the hospital. And one of the ways that you can reach out if you have time and if you believe in the cause of supporting patients in many different capacities, you can email volunteer@blanchriverhealth.ca. We also have a way to recognize employees who are doing really well by sending compliments to Thankful Thursdays. That program is being posted on Facebook every Thursday. And we're really trying to highlight those contributions, which we're getting a lot of success because people feeling recognized by the public has been gaining traction. Other ways to join as well, we have a patient experience partner program, which we have a group of people who's advising us when it comes to policies, when it comes to projects like wayfinding, and they're giving us that feedback from the patient and family lens, which has been very helpful. So that's all for me today. I'll have, sorry.
So thank you for that. Sorry, questions from council, Councillor Kylie.
Your worship. I'm just curious, when you run into a deficit position that you're in, having served on that hospital board, it was really strict that you couldn't go over your budget. What happens now? You have been over budget.
Right, so again, over 90% of the hospitals in Ontario are facing similar situations of deficit. So the mitigating solution or interim solution from Ontario Health and the ministry is that they are keeping track of when you're reaching potential cash failure, and then they do send you one-time funding to support and to augment. Because keep in mind, in these situations, even the banks are having challenging conversations with us because it's hard for financial institutions to support. So the ministry has been providing those temporary one-time support and really working hard to figure out how can we be more efficient in how we do things. So that's what's happening right now. So we've had recently submitted a plan as to what are the things that we can do to go within budget. And at this point, it's still not enough, whatever we presented. So we're working as a region to figure out more long-term solutions.
Yeah, it's definitely a problem throughout the province.
That's right.
So we're not alone.
The base funding need to increase. Right now, it's not catching up to the rate of inflation. It's not catching up to the need for agency support. It's not catching up to a lot of the post-COVID expenses, and they are recognizing that. The extent of recognition to actually come up with a long-term solution is still a question mark at this point. So we are advocating as a group, not just in the north, but all over Ontario, to be able to get this resolved, hopefully as soon as possible.
Good. Thank you.
Well,
Thank you. Councillor Shava and then Councillor Owen.
Yeah, welcome here and very good presentation. You said that ER closure is a reality. Are we talking about the two hospital sites at the same time or just one?
it really depends. The first time that we closed in Englehart, that was very unexpected. We had the shifts filled, but then one of the physicians got sick, and because we don't have a lot of backup plans and support in how we're staffing our ER, then we had to close because that was like 3-4 hours notice and then we had to close. So the closure can happen at any given site. It really depends on what happens to the physicians. Our physicians are working a lot of hours to the point that, they're sacrificing also family time. So I really don't know what else we can do except to support and strengthen the recruitment piece, which means that it's not just a hospital problem at this point. People are choosing to go to communities that are welcoming, communities that can provide more amenities, communities that can provide recreation support and family support for the entire family, not just the physicians.
Well,
Yeah.
so, yeah, to your worship, so the way of getting this out is, I guess, through Facebook and all that, so people have to phone in ahead of time before they go to the hospital.
If there's a closure.
Yeah,
So right now, when we closed in Englehart, we made sure that Facebook was utilized and we also had CJKL supporting us and having those announced on radio. And the one thing that you will notice is that the H signs that lead to the particular ER that's closed will be covered. Then that way, if you are traveling by private vehicle, you'll know that when it's covered, then you're not gonna be able to access that. Because the 911 or the ambulance, they know ahead of time that it's closing, so they would divert the trip to the nearest open emergency. But for private citizens, that's your cue. You'll hear it on Facebook, the radio, you'll have the H signs covered, and we'll be making sure to announce how long that potential closure would be when it's actually happening.
thank you.
Counselor
Sure.
Owen?
Through you, your worship, I'm really pleased to hear the very patient-oriented programs that you're introducing with the translation service and the ER clock. Those are, I think, very important, and it shows the attitude of the hospital that you are patient-oriented. All my experiences with the hospital have been very positive. I try to stay away from it, of course.
We don't want you to.
But I hate to be a Debbie Downer, but I have to ask this question. And I know that hospitals right across the province are running deficits, and that it is an issue with base funding. But are we at the risk of losing our hospital here if we continue in a deficit position? Because to me, that would be catastrophic. Like, I can't imagine Kirkland Lake without a hospital.
So the short speculative answer that I can give you is that I don't think so, because that means closing over 90% of your hospitals in Ontario because of the financial situation. Again, this is more of an industry challenge right now. It's not impacting one or two hospitals. It's impacting over 90% of the hospitals all over Ontario, the south, the north, whichever. So I don't think that will be the case. That's my answer.
Thank you.
Any further questions? Moved by Counselor Dyken, seconded by Counselor Kylie.
Be it resolved that the delegation entitled Blanche River Health Improvements, Challenges and Opportunities Fall Update be received for information purposes.
Thank you very much. Do appreciate Blanche River Health coming always. You're such a good community partner, and you make sure that through meetings between us that we're kept up to date and look for synergy. So thank you for that. And item, I do appreciate that greatly. So thank you for that. All in favor? Opposed? Unnoted. Item carried unanimous. Item number 6.2 is also Blanche River Health. We're gonna welcome this time for the fall update Cassandra James, Executive Director. Before you begin, I'll have moved by, did it backwards, Counselor Casey Owens and seconded by Counselor Rick Owen. So there you go. Thank you very much. You may begin.
Excellent. Thank you so much for having us today. I'm here because we're trying to raise education in the community about the foundation. So our foundation exists to raise funds for Blanche River Health hospitals. And while we just heard from George how much of a deficit there is, our focus is on non-operational costs. So the government covers some operational things like salaries and portions of some of the capital projects, like she just spoke about the sewer project. But it's community donations that really fund the critical equipment that our clinical staff uses. And so that's really where the foundation comes in. Annually, between both sites, Kirkland Lake and Englehart, we have $400,000 to $500,000 in equipment needs. And that doesn't include expanding services. That's just annual upkeep, maintenance, repairs, things like that. So since last year, our foundation has been working really hard to raise the profile and educate the community on those things so that we can increase the donations through awareness. Since last year, our foundation has, with community support, had a few wins. So I'm just going to name them off. We raised over $300,000 since January. And that includes a very successful support from the Rotary Club of Kirkland Lakes Grapes and Hops event that we had this spring, where $150,000 was raised alone. We helped double the number of cataract surgeries by funding new surgical equipment in the Kirkland Lake OR site. Cataract surgeries is one of the most common outpatient surgeries in our area and has an 18-month wait time minimum. So by doubling and increasing the equipment, we are cutting wait times and reducing travel outside of the community. We also secured over $52,000 through the simple act of Nevada ticket sales at the Pronto store in Kirkland Lake. That's what they raised in 2024. And those sales are actually going towards funding crash carts, 6 different crash carts in our Kirkland Lake site. George spoke, we have the ER Club, which we were able to secure through partnership with Alamos Gold and a few other community donations. And you may or may not have heard, last month we had a very successful Smile Cookie campaign where we sold over $39,000 in cookies, received over $6,000 in direct donations to the hospital. So through that, because we shared the $39,000 in sales between Tim's Camps and the hospital, but in total we raised just over $25,000. I share some of these things with you because every little action is really supporting the foundation, which is supporting our healthcare. So when we talk about a simple Nevada ticket or a $2 cookie, those things really do count towards what we're achieving for our communities. So looking ahead, I want to talk to you a little bit about what we're doing. We do have the Split the Pot lottery going on still. It's been a great initiative that we started early in 2024. It is a monthly lottery where tickets can be bought either online at splitthepot.ca, on the phone, or we even have a few community partners now. In Englehart, you can purchase tickets directly at Shop Around the Corner. In Kirkland Lake, you can purchase it at our hospital gift shop where the volunteers have the machine. You can do that Monday to Friday, or you can go to the Pronto store 24/7 and buy them in the Pronto store. The 50/50 that you see in Thunder Bay and Timmins, although very popular, has a very high overhead and a lot of work involved. For example, Timmins has one dedicated full-time team member just to run their 50/50. I am the only full-time foundation employee. So Split the Pot not only reduces administrative costs and staff burden, it is still raising lots of money for us. So it's a really great lottery and a great way to participate and support the foundation. The key is to select Blanchard River Health at checkout if you purchase online or over the phone. If you purchase at any of our local retailers, it automatically is directed to the foundation. We're also proud to share that last week's Magic of Christmas events, we were one of the benefactors there. The Legion and Blanchard River Health Foundation are going to be receiving donations from the funds raised. So we're very excited, as they did go very well. So we're excited to hear how the results were. George spoke about Thankful Thursdays. Thankful Thursdays allows you share a compliment with a staff member, and we celebrate that on Facebook. Well, the foundation took that a step forward, and we launched Grateful Hearts. Grateful Hearts allows you to provide your compliment attached with the donation. Doesn't matter the size of the donation. What that's doing is allowing family members, patients to honor the caregivers or teams that are taking care of them, and highlighting the incredible work that's happening in our hospitals in Englehart and Kirkland Lake, while also giving back. So since its launch, we've had 34 tributes made, and that's just since May. So that's the number of people that have stepped forward and said, this person has made a difference in my care today, and here's a donation to attach with that. So we're raising money, but we're also supporting our team members. Most of the people, when they've received their Grateful Heart certificate and custom pin, have actually cried. They were so moved by the tribute. So if you hear anything positive, or have anything positive, I really encourage you to make people think about grateful.brhfoundation.ca. So George said she's not here to ask for money. Today, I'm also not here to ask for
That's why I'm not
money.
asking.
But I will ask for you guys to think of some things that you guys can do as leaders in our community. So one, share our initiatives. You can do that in different ways. So when you're talking with residents or you're out with friends, having coffee, talk about the things that you've learned or heard about today, or here on the radio. George and I are on the radio, or myself and one of the team members from the hospital every month. If you're on social media, share our posts, leave a comment of support and share them, and that'll help reach more people and expand the messaging's capacity to get out into the world. Think about the Grateful Hearts program. If every time you heard somebody say something nice about the hospital, you said, oh, you could submit that to Grateful Hearts program. And if everybody that you said that to attached even a $5 donation over the course of a year, we could have a really solid impact on retention with our team members and funds raised for the hospital. We all know that word of mouth is a huge ally when we make it the right word of mouth in our communities. Stay engaged by attending events is another big thing you guys can do. I know I've seen lots of you guys out around town the last month, different events, and I appreciate you guys being leaders in that way. You really do set the tone for how the community responds and supports different things going on in our area. The other thing you could do is consider supporting healthcare here at home through municipal contributions. So I know George mentioned there are dollar donations that we can receive from municipalities, but there's other ways that municipalities can support things like retention and fundraising events. Donations to facilities like the complex, or if you guys have partnerships with the local restaurants, these things can help us with our physician recruitment funding. So really consider that when you guys are looking at ways to support. And then the other thing I want to highlight is that we have a really great plan giving program. So, make a call to your estate planner, consider leaving the foundation in your estate planning. It helps you reduce your estate taxes. It doesn't have to be your whole estate that you leave to the foundation, but that can leave a lasting legacy. Everything I've shared is on our Facebook and our social media, all our social medias and our website. Links to all of that are at brhfoundation.ca. I think that through your support and the continued partnership that we're seeing in the municipalities, we're going to keep reaching these higher funds that we need to raise and educating the people of our communities as to why we need to support the hospitals. That's all.
Excellent. Thank you. Any questions or comments from members of council? None noted. I do want to, sorry, Councillor Kylie.
Very great presentation,
Oh, thank you very much.
very informative.
I appreciate that. We're trying to get that education out there, so I appreciate that.
Anything further from members of council? So I'm just actually going to reiterate, probably in a more lengthy way, of what Councillor Kylie said. I did have the opportunity to thank you personally and just note what a difference I've noticed in the visibility of the foundation's profile. And honestly and truly, the work you're doing is incredible for that. And I even saw a post today that I commented on. Just
Thank you
know.
so much.
So thank you very
Small
much.
actions impact.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. And it's amazing. Your social media presence, incredible. Just, top notch. So congratulations to you guys. I'll have the reading of the motion.
Be it resolved that the delegation entitled Blanche River Health Foundation, follow update be received for information purposes.
All in favor? Opposed? Item carried unanimous. Thank you very much.
Thanks, everyone.
Item number 7, approval and acceptance of minutes. 7.1, council minutes moved by Councillor Dykens and seconded by Councillor Kylie.
Be it resolved that council approve the minutes of the following meeting, minutes of the regular meeting council held Tuesday, November 18th, 2025.
All in favor? Opposed? None noted. Item carried unanimous. Item number 7.2, local and regional board minutes moved by Councillor Owen, seconded by Councillor Shaba.
Be it resolved that council receive the minutes of the following meetings, minutes of the Northeastern Public Health Board of Health held October 23rd, 2025, and minutes of the Temiskaming Municipal Association held October 30th, 2025.
All in favor? Opposed? None noted. Item carried unanimous. Item number 8, reports from municipal officers and staff. 8.1 is 2024 audited financial statements. This will be presented by Lloyd Crocker, our treasurer, moved by Councillor Shaba, seconded by Councillor Kylie. Yeah.
Sorry.
That's okay.
Be it resolved that report number 2025 Corp 25 entitled 2024 audited financial statements be received, and that council hereby approve the consolidated financial statements of the corporation of the town of Kirkland Lake for the year ended December 31st, 2024 as presented, and that council received the auditor's reporting letter dated November 18, 2025, and that council hereby approve the trust fund's balance sheet and statement of continuity of the corporation of the town of Kirkland Lake and its affiliate boards for the year ended December 31st, 2024 as presented. And finally, the council hereby authorizes the treasurer to distribute the audited financial statements as presented and as required by section 295(1) of Municipal Act 2001 as amended.
Thank you. You may proceed, sir.
Just a little bit of housekeeping right at the start. The trust statements that are included in that motion, I'd like to defer those to potentially the next meeting, but perhaps the first meeting in January. There was a change in accounting standards required by the Bereavement Authority of Ontario. And there's a small adjustment to be made in those statements, a $3,000 adjustment to reflect the standards that they require. It's not the same standards as we use in our normal statements, but we need to make that change before we submit this to the Bereavement Authority. So those statements will be deferred. I guess at this point, I'm going to give Mark Belanger, he's the partner from Baker Tilly, works on our audit, give him an opportunity to present his materials and some comments about the statements.
Thank you. Welcome, sir. You may proceed.
Thank you very much and good evening, everyone. I hope everyone can hear me very clearly. Appreciate you having me this evening to present your 2024 consolidated financial statements, which would have been circulated within your board package. Is the intention that I share my screen as well to go over those, or will those be shared by somebody at council chambers?
You can share your screen, Mark.
Okay.
I'll just send the request out to get that access over the Zoom. Perfect. So I hope everyone can see my screen clearly. If not, please advise. What you should be seeing is our independent auditor's report. Is that correct? Perfect. So my intention today is to go over our audit report and our opinion, which is probably the most important piece of our report, to go over quickly some of the highlights of your 2024 audited financial statements. And then if council permits me, after addressing any questions or concerns with regards to the statements, I would like maybe an additional 5 or so minutes just to go over our audit findings that we would typically address with council for our compliance components within our requirements. So I will start with our independent auditor's report. It is the same format that you would have seen over the past several years. There have been no changes as far as the requirements as set out within this report. Probably the most important piece of this report is going to be the opinion paragraphs, the second of which reads as follows, and I'll make this a little bit larger for Zoom purposes. In our opinion, the accompanying consolidated financial statements present fairly in all material respects the consolidated financial position of the municipal corporation of the town of Kirkland Lake as at December 31st, 2024, and its consolidated results of operations and its consolidated cash flows for the year then ended in accordance with Canadian public sector accounting standards. As mentioned, the remaining paragraphs of the report are very similar to what you would have seen in the past. That goes through the basis of our opinion, the various responsibilities of management and those charged with governance with regards to these financial statements. And then following the auditor's responsibilities, you'll note several paragraphs that go into detail as to what our requirements are with regards to your financial statements. Now, one item that we will be modifying in the final version of the statements once the draft has been approved in anticipation of council approving this evening, December 2nd, our report will also reflect that. So we are essentially responsible for these financial statements up until council has taken responsibility for them. So we would date our report as of that date, which at this time we are expecting being December 2nd. And if that is not the case, then we will revise accordingly. But this date will change as a result. So I'll move into the consolidated statement of financial position. These are your assets and liabilities as a very specific point in time. So kind of a snapshot as of December 31st, 2024. Financial assets total $25,139,435, and that includes your cash, any receivables, whether they be user charges, trade receivables, or taxes receivable. When comparing from one year to the next, some of the numbers are very similar. We do see an uptick in taxes receivable as well as accounts receivable, which we have some additional details as well in the notes here statements, note 6, where that has seen an increase of about $1 million. A lot of these things are going to be timing differences as to when revenues are recognized and when those when the cash is collected. So in particular, accounts receivable, for example, might have some grants that are expected for funding some capital items, of which those funds may have only been received after December 31st, 2024. With regards to liabilities, which includes accounts payable, deferred revenues, any accrued interest on your debt and municipal debt, the asset retirement obligation, and any post-employment benefits and compensated absences. These totaled $31,988,009 for a net debt of approximately $6.9 thousand. Now, again, kind of comparing from one year to the next, many numbers are going to be similar, but again, some are going to be slightly different from year to year. And accounts payable and accrued liabilities in particular, we do see again an uptick of about $1 million from the prior year. And again, these are going to be timing differences for when services were incurred or such as items in capital nature, road work and things of that nature, and when those invoices are received and paid. So these may only have been paid after year end, and that timing difference is accounted for here. Your deferred revenues also did see some increases. These are funds received, whether from provincial or federal or other sources, such as donations that may have a restriction tied to them, for which those funds have not been spent yet as of December 31st. So again, all these things are timing differences as of a very specific date in time. Your non-financial assets include your tangible capital assets, prepaid expenses, and inventory supplies, which totaled about $118 million for an accumulated surplus of $111,209,544. Before I continue to the next page with your revenues and expenses, are there any questions with regards to the statement of financial position?
None at the table.
Perfect. Thank you so much. So I'll continue to page 2, your consolidated statement of operations and accumulated surplus. So previous page was a bit of a snapshot as of December 31st. This kind of paints a picture or video for the year 2024, what were revenues and expenses throughout the year. And we do have 3 columns. So we do have your budget, your 2024 actual, and the previous year comparative. And the budget is unaudited. We essentially take that information and put that in for information purposes. But the other item I do want to highlight to council and any other users of these statements is those budget figures are adjusted by us to comply with public sector accounting standards. So what I mean by that is if you were to compare these budget lines with what had been approved by council, there may be some differences. And what those differences might would result from would be items such as reserve adjustments, whether putting into reserves or taking from reserves, amortization of capital assets, acquisitions of tangible capital assets, things of that nature, that for budget purposes has a certain process, but for financial statement purposes under accounting standards, we want to compare apples to apples. So we will make some adjustments to that budget column to better compare to the actuals. And we do provide a reconciliation within these statements as well. I believe note 24 that goes into some of that detail that explains some of those differences. So if you're questioning some of the differences within the budget, that may result from those adjustments. So with all that being said, your total revenues for the year, focusing on the actual for 2024 in that middle column, represented $38,585,514, with total expenses of $41,315,490 for an annual deficit before other of approximately $2.7 million. other items being government grants and transfers related to capital, whether that's provincial or federal, of 1.8 million, for an annual deficit for the year of $927,584. The accumulated surplus at the beginning of the year was $112,137,128 for an accumulated surplus at the end of the year, as previously presented on page 1, of $111.2 million. Now, a few areas to maybe draw your attention to, or to maybe help clarify some variances, whether it's from budget or to prior year. And one area in particular that I did want to highlight was, the annual surplus or deficit towards the bottom of this page. If you were to compare the budget column of a surplus of approximately 2.1 million compared to the actual results of a deficit of 927,000, that appears to be a very large discrepancy there. But one thing that I would caution to take into account is these other items, and these are the grants for capital acquisitions, where there was a budget of about $6 million compared to the actual of 1.8 million. And the reason for that particular difference is there were some capital projects that were budgeted for, but maybe did not occur, whether they were canceled or maybe deferred to a future year. So that essentially explains that difference. And if you kind of take that into account, it brings us to the annual deficit before other. And this is more of an operating comparison. So from an operating standpoint, and again, this budget items are adjusted to reflect public sector accounting standards. We're showing a deficit budgeted of approximately 3.9 million compared to a deficit of 2.7 million. So there were some items here that were accounted for in council's budget, and it's actually there's a bit of an improvement over what was maybe expected to occur during the year. And a big part of the that improvement is related to some taxation. Now, you will see a fairly large increase of taxation revenues from one year to the next when comparing to actual. Your taxation revenues do include some supplemental taxes. So the taxes that might not reoccur annually, but may have been a result from a tax reassessment or changes in property classes, for example. There's about $900,000 of that occurred in 2024. That does help really explain the differences from one year to the other. I've tried to hone in on maybe some of the specific areas, but before continuing, are there any other questions maybe on variances or anything else that any other concerns or questions that council may have before moving to page 3?
We do. Councillor Kylie.
Through you, your worship, this 927,284 deficit, does that mean we have to carry that forward into our 2026 budget?
I don't know if management would prefer to answer that question, or if they would prefer for myself to answer that.
Thank you, Mark. Through you, Madam Mayor. That's not the deficit that we're going to be comparing to our budget. This is the PSAS deficit, the accounting standard one. And as Mark mentioned, there's differences between those two standards. So that's not part of what we're going to be carrying forward into or was carried forward in our 2025 budget. Okay.
Anything further from members of council before Mr. Belanger continues? Nothing further. Thank you, sir.
Excellent. I'll quickly go over the next few pages. Essentially, the page 3 of the consolidated statement of cash flows is really a summary of cash inflows and outflows throughout the year, for which operating transactions generated approximately $5.1 million, capital transactions being an outflow for various purchases of approximately 4.6 million, and municipal debt being repaid of $1,018,000, which resulted in a net decrease in cash over the year of $438,626. Finally, the consolidated statement of change in net debt. This really just explains, how we move from, on page 1, a net debt of approximately 6.8 million to 6,848,000 from year to year. So it gives kind of that reconciliation, and it does factor in again the annual surplus or deficit in this case, any amortization on the tangible capital assets, acquisitions of those capital assets, and any losses or other changes in prepaid or inventory supplies, for example, which essentially explains the net increase in net debt from one year to the next. With regards to the remaining pages of these consolidated financial statements, there are various note disclosures explaining how things are being accounted for, how they're being recognized. There are additional details to some of the balances that would be found on either the statement of financial position or the consolidated statement of operations. Many of those notes are very similar, again, from year to year that you'd be familiar with in previous financial statements. So I did not intend to go over those in any kind of detail unless there were any specific questions on them. So maybe before moving into our audit findings for the year, again, I'd like to reach out to council to see if there's any other questions that may have before continuing.
There is Councillor Dykens.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, through you to Mr. Belanger. I'm on page 14, accounts receivable. It says federal, there's a line for federal, there's a line for province of Ontario, and then there's other. I just wondered, just an idea of what the other accounts receivable might look like, or might entail.
If you permit me to consult my notes very quickly, I do have an answer for that. Apologize for the delay while you permit me a few moments. Some of these other revenues may reflect, for example, some water subsidy receivables that may not be collected necessarily from a provincial or federal body, but may be collected from another taxpayer or things of that nature. And there were some subsidies that are expected to be collected that essentially represents a large portion of that. If council would like some additional specificity to that other line, I may need maybe a few more moments to obtain that information for you.
If you prefer, I can bring that back to you, can answer that question, like the exact details of what makes up that.
Yeah, just like in general, like not in general, but just, yeah, what we came up with that number, so I just want to know. Just for.
Yeah, so just as a general comment, in any particular year, we have significant receivables. For anything from, landfill operations to the airport, to any particular, most of them are relatively small amounts. But anytime we're running a program, anytime we receive funding on behalf of other people, much like our mental health partners, when we receive funding or not receive funding, sorry, when we're expecting funding for budgeted amounts and they haven't received them at the end of the year, they're set up as receivable. I don't have the exact makeup of that amount. I can provide it, at a later date. I can answer it as a question if you don't mind. I don't have my computer with me, so I can't look it up off the top of my head. Sorry. I was prepared for a lot of things, but not that one.
Yeah, follow up, Councillor Dykens.
Yeah, just it's a significant amount, and I think it's important to know what's involved. Like not every penny, but just say airport's part of it. This is part of it.
It isn't a problem at all. I'd be happy to get the information. Just don't have it to hand.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. You may proceed.
If there are no other questions with regards to the statements, and happy to answer additional questions as well after presenting our audit findings, but I do appreciate just a few extra minutes to go over that for our professional compliance purposes, and it does provide some additional information to council as well as to how the audit had gone, if there's any concerns to bring to your attention as well. Overall, the audit has gone well. I know in previous year ends, the audit had gone maybe a little bit longer, so we find ourselves addressing and presenting the statements earlier this year, which I think is all positive trends that we're seeing. So, and that's a testament to your finance department, who is very helpful in providing information that we do need for the audit. So I do thank them. As far as responsibilities are concerned, and I did temporarily address that in our audit report as well. And that is all addressed within that reporting. But I did want to maybe just reiterate the key responsibilities with regards to your consolidated financial statements. So us as auditors, is our primary responsibility is to express an opinion on the financial statements. The financial statements are the responsibility of management, and it is those charged with governance. So in this case, yourselves as council, that acts essentially as a liaison between those two parties and does oversee that reporting process. Our audit process does essentially contain 4 steps. Our initial planning stage, addressing any industry changes, any risks that we might foresee stemming from that, developing the audit plan, executing the audit plan, and then stage 4, which is reporting and assessing our performance, which is where we find ourselves today. We also have to determine our audit approach annually. Now, what I mean by that is we can take an approach of what we call a substantive audit. And a substantive audit is where we go down to the source documents to help support the financials that we would have presented this evening. Another approach is relying on controls, where we will test some of those controls and whether documents are signed and things of that nature, and rely somewhat on those controls with regards to providing our opinion on the financial statements. We do take a substantive approach with the audit of the town, and that is primarily just more efficient in our opinion on how we approach the audit annually, and that is the same approach that we have taken for several years. With regards to audit risks and results, no significant audit risks identified to bring to your attention. There are some key estimates that are flagged or considered within these financial statements, and those are also outlined within the notes of the statements. But this would include the asset retirement obligations, opening costs and useful life of tangible capital assets, the post-employment benefits and compensated absences, as well as accounts payable and accrued liabilities, and the payable to the province of Ontario. We do have some changes in accounting policies as well. And again, those are disclosed in note 2 of the financial statements. And all that to say, with regards to those changes in accounting standards, they did not impact how things are recorded within the financial statements. I did want to touch on materiality, and council may recall this from previous years. So when we do the audit, we do determine a threshold that, in our opinion, if we were to come across errors within the financials that are uncorrected, would impact the decisions of the users of these financial statements. So in particular, council would be a user of these financial statements. And we take essentially 3% of expenses to arrive to that threshold that determines our audit approach and sampling methodology. And that approximates about 1.2 million. That's not to say that we ignore items below 1.2 million within your financials, just the opposite. We do sufficient audit work to ensure that there's no accumulated errors up to that point that would not require or would require adjustment, otherwise would impact our audit opinion, for example. So we have several layers below that to the extent that if there were any trivial errors in excess of $60,000 that are not corrected within your financials, we would bring that to the attention of council and the users of the statements. So there are some minor items that we did not adjust within these statements, and those being a fair market value component to an investment and a minor accrual or amount owing that was not recorded in the 2024 financials. The net impact of those two items is approximately $25,000. So very, very minor, does not impact our assessment of these financial statements. So those have not been corrected, but they have been disclosed to council. With regards to independence, we are required to declare our independence annually. So on behalf of myself, Baker Tilly, and my audit team, we are independent of the town of Kirkland Lake. Finally, other matters, all related party transactions are properly reflected within your statements. There were no significant or unusual transactions noted to bring to your attention, nor were there any significant matters discussed with management, again, to bring to your attention this evening. We do ask that management supply us with a written representation, simply stating that all information that we needed to perform our audit has been provided. So we will ask that management sign and return us that letter. With regards to internal control recommendations, so throughout our audit, if we come across some areas that we think can be improved upon, whether there's internal controls that we think we would like to make a recommendation to maybe modify, we would bring that up as well. The one area that is outstanding from previous year just has to do with the estimate in the landfill closure and post-closure costs, and getting an updated engineer's report that might reflect more accurately what that would be in today's dollars. So we will be making that recommendation once again. Otherwise, no instances of legal acts, fraud, intentional misstatements, or errors were noted during our audit, nor were there any instances of non-compliance of laws, regulations, or otherwise identified during our audit. So I always like to take this opportunity before concluding our presentation. We have not come across any instances of fraud or illegal acts or things of that nature throughout our audit, but I do ask of council for our compliance and our documentation for our file, whether there is any known or suspected items of that nature. So I would like to put that question out to council.
Any members of council aware as per the question? No one at the table has indicated in a positive, so you may proceed.
Perfect. So my last question is, as I had previously mentioned at the beginning of the presentation, we are responsible for the financial statements up until council does approve them. So in anticipation of possibly having that approval this evening, is council aware of any subsequent events? So maybe any events that would have taken place from our audit, and we would have had these discussions with management as well. But anything since December 31st that May 2024 that would possibly have an impact either on these financial statements or our audit that we are not already aware of.
Members of council? Nothing noted at the table.
Excellent. So essentially that concludes my presentation, but I'm happy to address any other questions or concerns at this time.
Thank you. Questions or comments? Councillor Dykens and then Councillor Shaba.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. This is on the page just after the agenda, right near the beginning of the attachment. And I'm sure there's a very easy explanation, but it states for the year ended December 31st, 2023. And I don't know, like, if I'm missing something or if it's just a typo or, because I know we're doing 2023. So it's under management's responsibility for the consolidated financial statements.
Sorry, Councillor Dykens, is it in the report or in the substantive
It's on the
documentation?
It's on the third page of the financial statements.
Okay,
Thank
thank you.
I've noted it
Oh,
to talk to Mark Boyd before tomorrow, or release that statement, so it
Okay.
is an error.
Okay, so thank you.
perfect. Good catch. Thank you. Councillor Shaba?
Yeah, your worship, usually when I get something in draft format, tells me that maybe there will be some tangible information coming later on. Is that so for this? Because every page it's got draft. Are we getting more material or maybe significant variances? Or this is it?
Would you like me to respond? As mentioned, we are responsible for the statements up until they are approved by council. So they are always in a draft format until that approval takes place. So if council does approve the financial statements this evening, we would remove that draft watermark and release final financial statements within the next few days. So they are in draft up until that point, and then once they are released, then that watermark is removed.
Madam Mayor, I just want to explicitly say there are no more changes.
Thank you for that. Anything further from members of council? We do appreciate your time this evening. Before we do take the vote, there was a suggestion from staff regarding an amount. If the treasurer would mind repeating that section, that first section, for the mover and the seconder regarding the last paragraph needs to be changed of the recommendation. The fourth paragraph.
Madam Mayor. So the motion anticipated trust statements being approved and being reviewed and approved tonight. Because I've asked for a deferral of that portion, that particular paragraph won't apply.
So Madam Clerk, do we need?
So the amendment on the floor would read that the recommendation be amended to remove paragraph 4 and substituted with, and that council hereby defer the consideration of the trust fund's balance sheet and a statement of continuity, which is appendix 2 of the corporation of the town of Kirkland Lake and its affiliate boards for the year ended December 31st, 2024 to a future meeting date.
Thank you for that. Councillor Shaba and Councillor Kylie as mover and seconder. Are you amenable to this amendment?
Fine.
Thank you for that. Yeah, yeah. Okay, so all in favor of the amendment? Opposed? None noted, so amended. Okay, and so any comments or questions before we get to the original motion? None noted, all in favor? Opposed? Passed unanimous. Thank you very much for your time, gentlemen. We do appreciate it. Thank you,
Thank
Mr.
you.
Boulanger. Thank you.
Thank you. Good evening.
Good evening. Item number 8.2, supplemental proposed transition to a corporate leased fleet management program. This will be delivered by Director of Corporate Services, Sean Leclerc. Moved by Councillor Casey Owens, seconded by Councillor Kylie.
It resolved that report number 2025-29 entitled supplemental proposed transition to a corporate leased fleet management program be received, and that the mayor and municipal clerk be authorized to execute the lease agreement for a corporate lease fleet management program partnership with Enterprise Fleet Management Inc., being the successful proponent in the RFP process conducted by the Association of Municipalities in Ontario, AMO, Local Authority Services, LAS, Municipal Buying Program known as CANOE, and finally that the execution bylaw be brought forward for 3 readings on December 2nd, 2025 in accordance with subsection 22IB of the town's notice policy.
Thank you. Director Leclerc, I'll get you to welcome our consultant as well.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Mayor and the council. We did ask David Leski, who's with the fleet management Enterprise Fleet Management, to sit in again tonight, just in case there's any questions. He's not gonna do any more presentation. I think he did a pretty good presentation at our last meeting. But anyways, just in case there's any questions that were going to stump us or anything like that, I thought I'd bring it forward. Thanks.
Thank you. You may proceed, Director.
Okay, so we have a supplemental information report to council on the leasing terms and transition. I do feel that a lot of the information, terms and that kind of thing were discussed in the last meeting. We weren't planning on it, but it came up with your questions, so I think we got a lot of information. So I'm just going to do a quick summary. So the Enterprise Fleet Management Inc. offers a turnkey leasing solution that includes vehicle analysis, acquisition, outfitting, maintenance, coordination, resale, telematics. One of the questions that came out from Councillor Ranger at the last meeting was, did we do any reference checks? And I hadn't did any at that time, so I did manage to get through to two of the companies that use Enterprise. One of them's been there for 1.5 years, and one of them's been 3 years, so we see a little different timing. Both, so municipality of Greenstone and town of Carlton Place, both had very positive feedback on the transition. Town of Carlton Place, the CAO basically said it was one of the best things they did in terms of the fleet management. So, and I quote her. So, one of the questions from Councillor Ranger was just, was there any things that we had trouble with when they were putting it in place? Just under municipality of Greenstone, they just had some logistics that they had to work with their representative, because they're a pretty remote community. So, and they just worked with them and fixed them. So everything worked out great for them. So yeah, so very positive for the references. Sorry, I did have 3 in there in the report because I was trying to get a hold of one more, but I didn't manage to get through to them at this time. So, as per the information provided by the client strategy manager, Mr. Valesky, there was no term of the contract. Should the town decide to the leasing program is no longer meeting fleet requirements, the town can exit the partnership with EFM at any time. As the vehicles come up for the changeover, it is up to the town or the council that, you know, if it's working well, we'll keep going. If for some reason it's not working well, then we can exit that and not go through these programs. So I think that does show that. Again, the proposed corporate lease program is expected to conservatively save the town approximately $435,000. So that is the reason why we are looking to recommend this going forward. And by leveraging EFM's expertise in market access, the town can ensure timely vehicle replacements, reduce downtime, and maintain a consistent and predictable fleet budget. The approach aligns with best practice in municipal fleet management and supports the goals identified in the town's current corporate strategy plan. So administration does recommend going forward. So we can open it up and see if there's any other questions.
Thank you, sir. Councillor Kylie?
Just to clarify, if we walked away from this agreement in 2 years, we're still responsible for leases, right? Okay.
Yeah, through your, yeah, and I think in the last meeting, he did say they would allow us to pay out the leases. I think there was a few different options, Mr. Bosky. So they're still our leases, so we'd have to look after them. But the way the leases are set up, they're not like a formal lease on a vehicle, same as you would get on your own. They do have some outs, so and they work. I don't know if Mr. Bosky would like to expand on that.
Yeah, certainly. Through you, Madam Mayor, we have several options for if Councillor Kylie, as you mentioned, if in 2 years' time you wanted to end it, there are several options. Yes, you can run the leases to term, and then we can sell them at that time, or you can even sell them at any time. There's no penalty to do so, and extract the equity from the vehicles and put that towards a different plan if that was the case. So we certainly, our goal is to always be a trusted advisor and give you several options, give you our recommendations, and ultimately you guys make the decision on how to move forward.
Anything further from members of council? Councillor Dykens?
Thank you, Madam Mayor, to Mr. Valesky. There was a 10,000 kilometer thing mentioned. Is that a maximum per year? And then if we go over that, there's extra charges, or did I just dream about that? Sorry.
Through you, Madam Mayor. No, that was the average mileage that your town's fleet was doing today. So all we do is we based and built our analysis on what you guys are doing over the last several years, and we wanted to use that as a benchmark going forward. But to answer your question, if you guys do more than 10,000 kilometers, there is no kilometer penalties or anything like that. It's just how we compare kind of apples to apples your fleet today to what it would look like through us.
Anything further?
Yeah.
Councillor Shabbat?
Yeah, through you, Your Worship. I'm in favor of this, but just have a couple of reservations. This is a business, and I'm always of the opinion that, as a business, we should have a very, much, maybe, a term. Like we do for garbage and all of that stuff, so we're gonna give you this lease option or whatnot, for certain period of time. After which we can all sit down and review it to see how we can move forward. But my understanding of this is that it's open-ended and the municipality can decide in 2 years or 3 years that we're gonna get out of it. For me, I would say, what will instigate that? I mean, one guy is not happy, then all of a sudden, okay, we want to pack it in. So I'm a little bit very apprehensive about not really having a very clearly defined term so that everybody will be looking forward to that term. So, okay, whatever grievances that I have, I'm gonna wait till the end of this year 3 or year 4 of the contract, then we'll bring it out. If we can't resolve it, then we'll go our own different ways. So I'm a little bit uncomfortable with that. And number two, again, this is based on my experience from the last committee that I was in, and there was no clearly defined exit protocol, and everything drags on for months, if not years, because we don't know how to get out. So I'm sure that maybe that would be embedded. I've not read this very thoroughly. I hope that is there, because you need to have a system whereby, well, we're not happy, this is how we get out. This is the steps that we take to get out. So, and the last thing that I have is there, I don't see, maybe it is embedded in here, dispute resolution mechanism, which, like you said about the 10,000 limit, and all of a sudden we go over it, something happened. So again, this is operational stuff anyways, but I want to make sure that we essentially have that in, because it's a business contract, and we must understand what we're getting into, because sometimes it's a lot easier when you get into it, think everything is rosy, but when you have to get out of it, then you run into a lot of problems. I see that when we do solar farm, it drags on endlessly because there was no clearly defined exit protocol when it started. So I'm hoping that we can have a way to have a dispute resolution mechanism in place, and also have a place to have an exit protocol clearly spelled out, so that if future council, if they want to get out because they don't like it for some reason, they have to wait for a certain number of whatever days or months or what, and then we all understand how to get out. That's all. Other than that, I'm for it, because I know we've been clamoring to have some sort of fleet management over the years, and this is coming through. So I'm excited it's coming through, but again, it's really, we have to really proceed with caution.
Thank you for that. There wasn't
I
really a
don't-
question per se.
Nothing else to speak to it.
Yeah.
For you, Madam Mayor. I think the dispute mechanism will be, if I'm not mistaken, by just even talking to the other communities, you have a lot of back and forth with your manager. You are talking with them at all times, and they're making recommendations and trying to fix things. And I think our administration will be working, we'll be working with the enterprise, and we'll know if we're not saving money, or if there's anything, if there's anything native, that will be our out. And I think the fact that it's only the leases that would stay in place, or we can actually get out of the leases, I think that it is a good a good deal in terms of that.
Councillor Dykens?
Through you, Madam Mayor, just for clarity, are you our manager on our side? Like you keep track with Mr. Blitzky? Sorry.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I would say the director of public works would probably have more discussion with them. They are going to deal with someone in our organization to set up the vehicles we need and that kind of thing. So I would think that Berthe would be more, but I will be in there as well, because we'll be looking every time a vehicle comes up. We'll be looking at it to make sure it is something that should go through this program.
Just for Councillor Shadows' peace of mind, if at any time it is decided at staff level that we no longer want to continue with this fleet management program, it would come back to council as a report. Yes, thank you for that clarification. Do you have something to, okay, Madam Clerk has something to add.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Just a supplement for the director. There's through you, Madam Mayor, to Councillor Chavez' question of ensuring there is proper notice cancellation indemnity whatsoever. I did a quick review of the fleet management contract. There's stipulations under cancellation notices and term, and they look all to be pretty standard in terms of our rights and responsibilities.
And that was included in the package.
Yes.
Anything further from members of council? Nothing further? All in favor? Opposed? Item carried. Item number 8.2. Sorry, that is what I just did. Harry. 8.3 supplemental collective bargaining with QP Local 26, and this is also delivered by Director Lacarte, moved by Councillor Rick Owen, seconded by Councillor Casey Owens.
Be it resolved that report number 2025 Corp 30 entitled supplemental collective bargaining with QP Local 26 be received, and that council authorize the mayor and municipal clerk to sign the collective agreement with QP Local 26 for the term commencing on May 1st, 2025 and ending on April 30th, 2028. And finally, that the execution bylaw be presented for 3 readings at a future meeting.
Thank you. You may proceed.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Good evening, Council. So the collective agreement did come due on May 1st. We were a little bit late. It's the first chance we got together. We did start our collective bargaining on October 28th, 2025, and went to 2 days, and then we met again on November 5th. Members of both bargaining committees reached an agreement on a memorandum of settlement and a list of agreed upon items on that at that time, and the attachment was in there. Both parties have since sanctioned the new collective agreement, so it is officially going forward, and official ratification will occur at a later date when the collective agreement is signed by both parties and brought forward. The settlement was negotiated through the mutual respect and dedication of both parties in addressing workforce needs and enhancing workforce conditions to both the public works and community services departments. And the length of the contract is 3 years till April 30th, 2028. Many of the bargaining issues were housekeeping updates to improve the language in the collective agreement. We do that with every one of our agreements, just trying to improve how it reads. The general wage increases for all positions in the bargaining unit is 3.25% per year for the 3-year contract, retroactive to May 1st. There is expanded vacation and sick leave benefits mirroring the town's non-union benefit policy, as well as enhanced vision care and massage therapy coverages designed to support employees' health and work-life balance. There is a letter of understanding that has the massage therapy in there. We were just took a prudent approach. We did increase the amount that is available. We do realize that health and well-being is very important. We do also have to look at the cost in that area, so that just allows us to do that. The employer agreed to a $2 per hour wage increase to the position of mechanic, along with a new classification of lead mechanic for one of the positions. Understanding. Again, the letter of understanding allows us to look at this over the next few years to make sure it is something that works for both sides. And it should it not work, then we can make changes to it or get out that kind of thing. So just prudent. The estimated incremental cost of salaries over a 3-year period is approximately $333,000, which includes the increase in the mechanic wages. The town entered the collective agreement on October 28th and resulted in the memorandum of settlement for both council and union's approval. And we're looking to ratify it and move forward with it.
Thank you.
Open
Any
to take
questions or comments? None noted. All in favor? Opposed? Item carried unanimous. Thank you. Item number 8.4, vesting properties 2025 tax sale results. This will be delivered by Treasurer Lloyd Crocker, moved by Councillor Shabba, seconded by Councillor Kylie.
Be it resolved that report number 25 Corp 26 entitled vesting properties 2025 tax sale results be received. And that council authorize the vesting of the following properties in the town of Kirkland. 19 Cameron Street, 2 PIN 61402 0127 LT on Laverne Street, 31 Premier Avenue West, 418 Premier Avenue West, 551 McKelvey Avenue, 672 McKelvey Avenue, 749 Taylor Avenue, 870 Queen Street, 9 7 King Street, 10 106 Wood Street, 1149 Prospect Avenue, 1216 Rand Avenue, 13 Federal Street, 1474 Wilson Avenue, 1565 Government Road East, 1667 Tower Street, 17 pin 6122000156, land titles Airport Road, and finally that the municipal taxes and all charges be written off the above noted vested properties.
Thank you. You may proceed.
So it's been a long time to get to this point. I'd like to kind of give some general comments about the tax sale process and the challenges that lead to a tax sale process. Some of these comments apply to the next report as well, extending taxes receivable. You're all aware that we have considered a higher than average taxes receivable account for this size of municipality, the challenges that go with it historically, until our main industry picked up and was picked up by a couple of corporations and now is flying along with the gold market as well. Things have turned around quite drastically for us, but there was a period of time where that just wasn't true. And for a long time, there wasn't an awful lot of activity on the tax sale side, mostly, I think a lot of our economic realities, some staffing issues. Just to kind of speak about when we identify tax sale properties, it's important to understand that some of these properties weren't, I'll call them people who are making an effort to avoid paying us. So a lot of these are estates, and estates create huge issues for management and trying to collect. Some estates are very active, they take care of their assets, they follow the process. Some estates, we can't even get them on the phone, we can't find them, they will not respond to anything. So there's a wide range of that behavior. So you'll see, it's not directly in this report, but many of these properties were estate properties left to rot or left to stay in the state that they were founded. Some of these receipts were as old as 2012. There was a moratorium during COVID for a short period of time for tax sales, and I think nobody really picked up after COVID until this one. There was a smaller one before this. This one is kind of our big one. This is the one where we're trying to clean up a lot of properties that were identified through the tax process, but also we had some discussions with planning and the development department. They've identified a bunch of problem properties. We hear about this frequently. You guys are inundated with comments about the state of some properties. So some of those properties are identified because not only are they a tax problem, but they were also a property standards problem. So, the write-off is really a reflection of a little bit of a combination of all those things. Difficulty in identifying who owns a property at this point, how much the properties are worth in the minds of these estates and owners. There wasn't just estates on this list, and the building property issues. So that helped us kind of get to that list of properties that we put up for tax sale. So the tax sale itself, we raised over $440,000. We collected $440,000 of arrears taxes. You don't see that in this report because what we're here talking about tonight is the ones we didn't collect. And that's over 500,000. These are the specific properties that are related to that. We have, just to kind of give you a heads up, one property that was on that list was sold before the tax sale process was completely engaged. One was sold after the tax sale process. We have 5 that are going forward. There was a problem. You remember when the post office decided to do its we're on, we're off on delivery thing. We couldn't deliver in a timely manner on 5 properties, the notices that are required. So they'll be happening in January. Those are primarily vacant lots. They're not going to be significant in this process. We also have 2 agreements, which we've collected over $36,000 so far this year in arrears taxes through those agreements. And like I said, we have the 2 properties that were sold. So just a kind of an overview of it. Many of these properties, we talk about vesting, and there's some options here. Just like to kind of quickly summarize them. I characterize them as 5, but some of these options are essentially the same option for decision-making purposes. So options 1 and 2 is vesting the properties, and that's what we're recommending tonight. That's where we will write off the taxes associated with those properties, and we take back ownership of those properties. The goal there is a mix of, we're gonna fix the property standards problems that are associated with some of those properties. Some of those properties, once we've done the tax write-off and gone through our process, we can put them up for sale for future. If somebody else wants to build on an empty lot or a refurbished lot, we'll call it. Some of those properties, the prices were just too high. The taxes outstanding, people expressed an interest in the properties, but they just didn't want to spend $40,000 for a property that they're going to spend $100,000 afterwards rehabilitating. There's a mix of reasons why we invest them, and like I said, the planning and development, I never get their name correct, that department, I'm sorry, Dan. They have some properties that they want to keep for municipal purposes. So that, this list is comprehensive in that sense. So declaring surplus and retaining will be a decision we will make at a future date, once we get through the property standards process and once we finish off all the legal. It's shocking. I've learned some, I'll call them complicated lessons about the tax sale process. It really is a long, arduous process. The amount of tick boxes and checklists that we have to fill out and follow up and letters and stuff like that, it's quite surprising. Options 3, cancel tax reverse certificate and leave the property as is. This on the face of it, you're certainly allowed to throw it back into our taxes receivable list and leave it there, do nothing with it. I would characterize that as the do nothing option, which, we're living with that do nothing option, unfortunately, and many of these properties probably can be rehabilitated, but not in their current state or not with the current amount of receivables associated with them. So we're not recommending that one. The municipality may advertise a property for sale a second time. So we could go through an abbreviated tax sale process for these properties. Again, we could put them up for sale. We'll have to spend, I believe it's $1,500 doing that immediately. I think a common sense answer to that is, if they didn't sell the first time, they're not going to sell the second time with $1,500 tacked onto it. So we don't think that's much of an option. Like I said, we had some people come in after the tax sale saying we would have bid, but well, thank you for the information, but we'll see you next year, maybe. And again, the no action, if we leave it, there's really 2 no action options. One is we can cancel the tax reverse certificate, which cancels the tax sale process. The other one is just to leave it as is, and it would be deemed canceled within a year. So again, those 2 options, 3 and 5, are essentially the same thing. It's just a question of timeline, whether we cancel immediately or a year from now. The advertising is a unique option, and 1 and 2 envision us retaining the properties for 2 different purposes. But we could, in theory, put everything back up or retain everything, depending on, what we hear from the other departments. But it'll be a mix. We still haven't nailed down exactly which properties are, but it's my understanding that planning has identified some properties that they think we could use as a municipality, use ourselves. I think we've kind of outlined the options. The recommended option is essentially 1 and 2. We would like to vest the properties. We'd like to write the taxes off. Some of these properties will be put back up for sale and, not immediately, we'll go through the process, and some will be retained by council. Choosing that option automatically creates this almost $535,000 write-off. Again, that's really where we have talked about taxes receivable many times since I've been here. It's been on the agenda many times before me. it was time to do something. This is kind of the hit that goes with that. To speak to the results of this, so we did collect 440,000 directly. We have another 36 we've collected through the agreements process. And we're expecting more, through the agreements process. The rest of those accounts will be cleared up. These accounts, many of them were derelict properties. There are properties that, either people didn't want, or they just weren't willing to take a chance at the prices we were putting them out at. So, both for accounting purposes and legal purposes, if we want to go through this process and end up with these properties, available, put them back onto the tax roll when somebody either buys them or rehabilitates them, hopefully. This is a necessary step. It's a step that, we're bringing in front of you for your consideration. We do have an allowance, so the accounting side of, you don't mind, I'll bore you for a minute or two. We have a $500,000 allowance already on our books, and that was in anticipation of bad taxes receivable. So we're going to use that to take out most of this loss. We will replenish that, not up to 500,000, because the quality of our taxes receivable, once we're through this process, has increased quite a bit. Like I said, a lot of these properties were our worst properties for taxes. So, we expect that allowance not to be, and we'll recover it over the next few years. We're not going to put $500,000 into the budget next year to fix this. This is primarily a very small hit in the budget to reflect, our reality of some very old taxes on some very derelict, often derelict properties. And we need to kind of move forward with that. On a positive note, and this speaks to the next report very much, is, I was talking to the tax collector today, just, we talk frequently. And she was very pleased with the activity that we're seeing down at the front now. There's a tremendous increase in the amount of people showing up and wanting to talk to us about finding a way to pay their taxes, the ones who are in arrears. We haven't seen that in a long time. And the following report is not as rosy as what I'm going to say now, but we're already, our taxes receivable, is improved significantly since the number I pulled for that report. And I think not a small part of that is because of the tax that we talked about the idea, we've all heard the social media comment, just don't pay your taxes and don't worry about it. Well, that's not our reality. We're willing to follow the process and make sure that everybody's paying a fair amount when it's required. And the staffing, we approved, the new position, and we're already starting to see, next week, we're going to be sending out a new batch of, we call them tax registration letters. They're not actually registering the properties, but they're warning letters to certain properties. And that's what we're going to tell them, is that, if you don't come in and talk to us about a payment plan or pay these outstanding amounts, then you're on our next tax sale list. And again, we're not deferring this anymore. We're trying to be active about that process, and now we have the staff to follow up with it. It should get even better. If there's any questions about the tax sale itself, and come to the receivables themselves later, I'd be very happy to take them.
Counselor Kylie?
Through your worship, this is a good news story because it's dragged on for years. And it's nice to see that we're getting this cleaned up. So congratulations to you and the tax department for making extreme headway, to say the least.
Yeah, thank you. And, I do make mention, and I just want to really be clear, the effort that the tax collector made, yes, we use consultants to help us, but there is hundreds of hours involved of her time and her effort to get us to this stage now. And I just want to be very explicit in front of you all, that effort is well recognized.
Anything further from members of council? Before calling the vote, I do want to say how much I appreciate the team the work on this because it is something that has been spoken about as long as I've been on council. I do believe that we've made headway, even though, yes, we may have not been able to sell as many as properties that we wanted. I honestly do think this is a step in the right direction, so I do appreciate all staff work on this. With nothing further, all in favor? Opposed? None noted. Item carried unanimous. Item 8.5, taxes receivable as of October 31st, 2025. This will also be delivered by our treasurer, Lloyd Crocker, moved by Councillor Casey Owen, seconded by Councillor Rick Owen.
Be it resolved that report number 2025:27, titled tax receivables as at October 31st, 2025 be received.
You may proceed, sir.
Madam Mayor. Just myself all of my papers. Anyways, as requested, in a previous council meeting, we wanted an update on the taxes receivable and our efforts to do something about that. I've given you some of the pieces in the previous report. I just want to emphasize, that those numbers are more or less static, which, we were hoping they would be going down, but they are going down now. We are seeing it. The staffing, as I mentioned to you earlier, when we were talking the budget and creating the assistant tax collector, this could take a couple of years to really see solid results. Like I said, we're seeing results. We're definitely seeing more activity downstairs, people coming in and talking about this. So again, the numbers don't follow the activity immediately, but it is a good news story downstairs. It's significant. We're sending those letters out probably next week to the identified one, the next round of potential tax sales. And I'd be happy to answer any questions about that. There's a bunch of figures in there.
Councillor Casey Owens.
Through you, Madam Mayor, I'm not sure if the question was more in line with this one than the previous report, but I'll ask it anyway. So what happens if, no, I'm assuming some of these properties that the taxes are not being paid on still have people living in them. What happens in that process? Would we vested if there's still people living in them, or easements, do we become landlords?
To you, Madam Mayor, we own the properties, and I don't believe, my limited experience in this is that we would continue in a landlord. I mean, technically, we're landlords in the sense that we own the property, but we would expect that property to be vacated immediately. That would be the normal behavior to a tax sale process. Obviously, they have an opportunity to come in and pay, so we're not at that stage. I'm not sure anybody who, the letters are very explicit. The costs of the tax sale process increase their cost immediately. Hopefully, we're not in that position, but yes, it could happen.
CEO Smith.
I just maybe ask Director Lowry to come up and give a couple comments on some of the associated costs of this.
Good evening, Madam Mayor.
Yeah.
To piggyback off the treasurer's, there is definitely associated costs once we do go through a vesting process. There would be some legal costs if there is if they are tenanted or if they are still occupying the space. That would be something that my department would budget for to go down that process, because once their properties are vested, their properties are then would be handled by my department when it comes to the actual property itself. Other things that the treasurer alluded to earlier was just the state of some of the properties, and that the properties are some in disrepair. So budgeted items such as demolitions would take place, but as Lloyd had said earlier, there are some properties that we could then sell, surplus and sell ourselves through our regular disposition of land and properties. But that's all something that we would budget for internally.
Thank you for the points of clarification. Counselor Shava?
Just a new question, not a point of clarification. I'm just having a question. Do you have a point of clarification? Okay. Yeah, to Madam Chair, in the grant up here, you indicated that we have a new staff and indicated also that you see a drop in taxes receivable resulting from that. Now, do you have any achievable goal for that drop in taxes? Can you quantify? Do you have a number in mind, or it's just a drop in taxes to me? 1%, 2%, or is there any goal that you think will be realistic with this new hire going forward? Is there?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. No, I don't have a specific dollar amount. Kind of the nature of the process is until we start talking to these people, we can't assess whether or not we have leverage or not, true leverage. The goal is to get as close to current as we can. I mean, that would be the goal. How realistic that is, I don't know at this point. There are still properties out there, much like our tax sale property, which, I think I made this comment before. One of our biggest problems is just contacting people. Everybody used to have a home. Everybody used to leave home phone numbers. Everybody carries a cell phone. They never thought to phone us and let us know that we can't deliver something to the front and it gets ignored. So, the tax sale process forces that contact information. But no, I guess the short answer is I don't have a specific dollar amount in mind, but like I said, the goal is to get that number down to something much more current. Unfortunately, I can't give you something concrete to go with that.
Thank you.
Anything further from members of council? I just want to again commend the team. The first report came back in 2021. And now we're seeing this report, even though we haven't seen a drastic change yet. Council and staff have made that change in staffing, and I do really consider that a step towards our ultimate goal of, like you said, ultimately, we would like to see everybody up to date. It may take years to get there, but at least we're going towards that goal. The only thing that I would say is I would like to see this report year over year, every year, as an annual report. That's my only suggestion to that. Anything further from council? All in favor? Opposed? None noted. Item carried unanimous. Thank you, sir. Item 8.6, proposed housekeeping, Premier Avenue subdivision M147T. This will be delivered by Jenna McNaughton, planning administrator, moved by Councillor Owen and seconded by Councillor Kylie.
Be it resolved that report number 2025 DEV 34 entitled Proposed Housekeeping Premier Avenue Subdivision M147T be received. And that council approve the stop up and close of Martinville Street, Bank Street, Max Street, Premier Avenue, and surrounding laneways as presented. And that council enact a deeming bylaw pursuant to section 50, subsection 4 of the Planning Act, so as to deem lots 1 to 57 registered on M147T as not being registered lots within the planned subdivision. And that the corresponding deeming bylaw be brought forward for 2 readings on December 16th, 2025. And that the lease agreement authorized by bylaw 2052 with the owners of 35 Premier Avenue East be canceled upon the formal 60-day notice provision, and finally that bylaw 2052 be repealed upon the lapse of the formal 60-day notice provision.
You may proceed.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, through you to the rest of council. We're looking at an undeveloped area of town in the old subdivision, premier area from M147T. The plan of subdivision outlines several road allowances and laneways. So as a housekeeping measure, we're just looking at removing this historical subdivision plan, just to support prudent and effective planning moving forward. So the area of this plan of subdivision actually consists of 3 areas. A portion of this is part of Rand Avenue West, which does have developed houses. The other area is it's actually called Premier Street, and there's those other streets, Martel Street, Bank Street. So we're just looking at having these streets closed, the lots deemed so that we can take them out of that plan of subdivision. The majority of those lots that were drawn are 40 by 100 lots. It's not a very suitable area to do those 40 by 100 lots. Some of them are actually smaller with like diagonal edges. So we're just looking at having that closed. In addition, there is a lease agreement at the end of Premier that we'd look at having canceled, as this could affect any future development that could potentially occur in that area.
Thank you for that. All in favor?
Oh, can I just ask?
Councillor Dykens?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. It says there will be expenses related to registering legal documents on this. What kind of expenses are we looking at?
Sure. Thank you. Through you to Councillor Dykens. The expenses are related to actually registering the agreement. So there would be a deeming bylaw that would be registered on each portion, and then the agreement to have the road allowances closed. They are expenses to register the documents on time.
Follow up?
Yeah, just, so what are we looking at in terms of just this bump?
To Madam Mayor, sometimes the deeming bylaws are around $800 to register, so it's not a very large amount. And it'd probably be similar with the road allowances. Thank you.
Any further questions from council? All in favor? Opposed? Carried unanimous. Thank you, everyone. Item number 9, members' motions, 9.1, Councillor Latchava, would you like to have the reading of the motion before you speak?
Yeah, yes, sorry.
Madam Clerk?
Certainly moved by Councillor Latchava, seconded by Councillor Dolly Dykens. Be it resolved that section 4A of council and its committee's procedures bylaw 2562 be amended to include a standing item entitled questions from council to staff in the routine order of business for regular and special council meetings, and that amendments to the procedural bylaw 2562, including a schedule for the procedures for the addition of the said section, be presented at the January 6th, 2026 regular council meeting. And finally, that the amending bylaw, including the procedural schedule, be brought forward for 3 readings at the January 22nd, 2026 regular council meeting.
Thank you. You may speak to your item.
Okay, thank you, your worship. This is more or less a housekeeping item for myself. And the prior to the wholesale review of the procedure bylaw, we had the question to staff agenda item, which essentially give us the opportunity to bring questions forward in a public forum to be asked and then get answers from the staff over time. I think that exercise to me is very valuable to the public because they see us doing our job. And I do recognize that there are other avenues where issues could be addressed, either through the CEO or the head of council or whatnot. I do get those things, but again, that's not to limit this particular opportunity because there are issues that maybe pretty much uniquely qualified to come to questions to staff. And right now, anything that we have to be brought out in open forum must come through the notice of motions. And notice of motion, I mean, no offense to the clerk, but there's a lot of iterations of whereas, therefore, whereas, and all of that, where I just want to get to here's my question and can I get an answer someday? And that's it. So I think there's a value in restating this to us. It's an opportunity for us to engage members of the public. I know we always say, well, we open up to the public, nobody shows up, nobody's talking to us, whatnot. But we have to keep trying. So and not close the door on any opportunity for us to have something out in the open for the public to hear us doing our job. So I will ask you to support this motion.
Counselor Dykens, as seconder on the motion, you can speak next.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Yeah, I concur with what, Councillor Chavez said. I think it's important for business of, the municipality and the business of council to be as open and transparent as possible. And this is a mechanism that allows us to ask questions that I think the public needs to hear as well. I meet people all the time that follow us very closely and, think things that, outside of this forum, we're not allowed to, like, more than three members of council aren't allowed to speak. So this is kind of the forum that we all get to speak and to hear the same thing. So openness and transparency is really important.
Thank you for that. Counselor Kylie?
Yeah, I support this suggestion. A little concerned about the format. Does the counselor advise the clerk prior to the council meeting to get it on the agenda? How would this work? I don't think we're not looking for a big report, just to get it scheduled. How would that work?
Okay, so I don't believe that is something that can be answered at this time. Because are the members looking to alter the way in which council is entitled to receive information? Because at this time, our avenue, we can email our CAO directly. We can go into his office directly and ask questions. And I don't know if there's been any issues not receiving responses, because I myself and many members at this table email. I receive copies of emails to our CAO from members at the table regarding questions from members of the public. I assume that those members forwarding those questions then go back to the members of public that ask them with their responses. So are we, sorry, Councillor Dykens, Councillor Shava, are we looking for a change of how we receive our information?
To you, your worship, no, I'm just looking for what we had before. Whereas if there are any questions that do not fit into the mold of notice of motions and all of that stuff, you can quickly bring those questions forward, and then in public, you know, and then you get your answers in public later on. That's all I'm looking for. I know if there may be other issues that I may not want to bring to the public. I want to go talk to you or talk to the CAO. Notwithstanding those, there are other issues. Let's say we have passed a motion a year or two ago, and you can go and ask CAO what is the disposition of that motion, or you can turn around and say, well, I have another option. I can come and ask the question in public. So, okay, can I have the disposition of this motion for next time around, so that the public will know you're doing your job? I mean, like, for the way I see it is that for me to do my job effectively, this is one of the tools that I need to do my job. When people say, here's the question here, I have to make a decision. Is that something that will go to the CEO to be addressed, maybe due to the sensitivity of it, or is that something that will come here and I could ask the question and I get an answer some weeks down the road? So I'm just asking for what we had before. I'm not asking for a change in format. I'm not asking for a change in reporting. I'm asking us to give us the opportunity to be more transparent and accountable to the very people that we serve.
Sorry, I do appreciate that. Councillor Owens?
Through you, Madam Mayor, I think we're working backwards. My personal opinion on this one is we're moving backwards. We just finished modifying the procedure bylaw. Do I agree with everything that's in there? Nope. Did I understand the actual implications of how things would work when they present stuff to us on paper? it seems okay on paper, then we pass it, and it's like, well, I didn't see this one coming, it kind of adds redundancies, but it is what it is, that's municipal politics for you. But I do find for transparency, we do have opportunities to present what we do as counselors. We have a whole section that says counselors report, and if I want the counselor to know, or the rest of council or the public to know, that I've sent questions about tipped over garbage cans, what other possibilities of why people approach me or question me, I can do in counselor's report. And we can have the discussion in counselor's report, and we can have that wholesome discussion. So a transparency argument for me is non-valid because we have that at the end of our meetings. So what was that? So to go back in time and change something that we were supposed to read and understand and vote on in September doesn't seem right to me at this point in time. So we have the mechanisms and let's work with what we have.
Thank you for that. Counselor Dykens?
Through you, Madam Mayor, I think it became evident when we already had a motion passed to have a particular report at certain times during the year, and that wasn't forthcoming. And when it was asked about, we still don't have a financial report for 2025, and I'm not sure that's acceptable. So I was told I had to do a motion to get something that we were already supposed to get. So that's where, for me, where it came from, that I don't think that's expedient. I don't think that's a good way of doing municipal business. I think if something was forthcoming, we should be able to right away ask and not have to go through a motion and wait another couple of weeks for that. So that's that's where it became evident for me that we missed the boat or there's something so that's all we're asking is for that question to staff to be reinstated for expediency, for openness, for that's.
So I appreciate that. So it's not a matter of actually, as was previously stated, questions from the public. It's concerns from council that we pass motions and items don't come back to us in an expedient amount of time. So in that case, that isn't a policy issue. As we're all aware, as council members, it is our role to pass policy and not manage staff. So if there is an issue such as that arises, that you are uncomfortable that a motion came forth, the only member of staff that we have as a body of 7 when we sit at this table is CAO Smith. So any kind of issues like that with maybe you feeling that things aren't being delivered in a timely manner should be addressed through the CAO. That is a job management issue, not a policy issue. So that's my answer to that specific event, and it is my understanding that the whole of council had received the answer to that question. So definitely that's something. CAO Smith?
May I suggest that our municipal clerk just give a bit of a historical summary on how this all came about and why this has changed?
Yep, thank you for that. Madam Clerk, can you speak to this issue?
Yeah, through you, Madam Mayor, just want us to get some clarification from the CAO. Are you looking to get clarification on why the item was removed from the procedural bylaw, or where it incepted from?
I would say why, well, where is it accepted from?
Okay.
Yeah.
I think I made some notes. So back in 2018, the previous direction had established that it was being overran with questions from that former council, and it didn't really have any way of prioritizing the pulse of what needs to be done first. So there was a report to council that came in 2018 from the former administration, and this is before the inception of a council staff relations policy, which governs the roles and responsibilities of the council versus the staff, and the only employee to the council being the CAO. So, and with all due respect to the previous director or acting CAO at the time, he wasn't very familiar with the rules and responsibilities under the Municipal Act and allowed for the questions between council and staff to transpire, despite under the Municipal Act, council's business and its time is valuable, and it should probably be exercised in a form that's more structured for them to be able to change policy, because that is the ultimate role of council, is for policy focus. So that being said, there was a report that came in 2018, and then somewhere between 2018 and 2021, the whole aspect of questions from council to staff kind of evolved into a question period on operations. And this was even post the council staff relations policy. And you will recall that when we started the term off with this council specifically, I had identified, when we had reviewed the items on the agenda, that this questions from council to staff, I really wasn't quite sure where it was going to morph with the whole council, and that eventually would probably need to be removed, because council has a mechanism in place to manage its operations, which is through the delegated authority to the CAO, or by passing policy through members' motions, or by recommendations from information reports from staff. So in introducing the questions from council to staff again in the procedure bylaw now in effect was not it was not an operational requirement, or it was not an operational recommendation, because I wanted to clearly delineate the difference between the council staff relations policy, the council code of conduct, staff's code of ethics, the roles and responsibilities of the council of the Municipal Act, and the order of business already at pens for the public realm to be completely transparently aware of what's going on when it comes to business of the council. So that's kind of where it started and how it got removed.
Thank you for that. Councillor Kylie?
Through your worship, first of all, my experience in 11 years in council, there wasn't a heavy volume of questions being asked from council, and they were given to the senior person in advance of the meeting, and they had the opportunity to did get into an operation situation that they could answer directly to them. So all we're asking is, and the other thing I disagree with the mayor, these are questions that we get on the street from our residents as well, and they want to hear answers. And again, if it's transparency, there might be it could be minor things, but it shows that we are proactive in listening to what our residents are saying. So I fully support this.
Councillor Owen?
Through you, your worship, after listening to the discussion, I have changed my position on this. Now, some of my questions I would not want to see go in my councillor's report. I'll explain why. Because I could end up I'm asking questions staff has not had a chance to prepare for. Okay, and I don't think that's fair to staff. So I do not plan on using councillor reports to ask my questions. Having said that, I have brought many issues to the CAO over my years on council. I would say 99% of the time I get a timely answer. 1%, he probably looks at me and say, oh, Rick's doing it again. No, I'm just kidding. The CAO is a busy man and sometimes, but the vast majority of the time I get an answer and I get it in time fashion. Now, if it's asked to me by a specific resident, I let that resident know what the reply, what the answer to the question was. I do agree it is hard to write motions for some of these questions. I have also gone to the mayor and, before I switch to the mayor, the CAO and I have had words, polite words, I would say. We've had disagreements, but in a professional way. Okay. I've also gone to the mayor with my concerns, and I sometimes have CC'd her on emails that I've sent to the CAO. That system is working for me. Now, if we go back to asking staff questions on the agenda, that's for my benefit. Okay, that's a selfish thing for me, because now it's out there in public that I actually followed up. So, because of the way I work, I don't need to ask the question in a public meeting. I will admit, sometimes I'd like to, but so initially I was and Councillor Shavin knows, I spoke to me, we had a discussion about this. I was going to support putting it back on the agenda, but I realize now that my motives would be would be selfish motives, not necessarily in the best interest of the town. So I've changed my position on that.
Thank you for that. Councillor Owens and then Councillor Tyler.
Follow up, I don't wanna go around in circles on this one. I just wanna clarify, I would never dream of asking or to bombshell or to throw out there a question at staff during questions reported, whatever question I would ask or present would only be something that was asked ahead of time, and then I would talk about that said question in councillor's report. I wouldn't, so I don't want, but again, the motive for me is I share Councillor Owen his perspective on this one, and I don't feel a need to ask all these questions publicly. Most of them are operational in nature, and the information that's given to me is passed on to the resident that the question is asked of. Then we move on.
Thank you for that. And Councillor Kiley?
Yeah, through your worship, I meant to add, we do get a lot of questions from our residents. And it's fine, as you said, Rick, by answering to them. But there could be 10 other residents that are wondering the same thing. And it's not an operations issue that I'm talking about. It's just quality information on what's happening with the town. That's my opinion. I don't see anything wrong with it.
Thank you for that. I just want to add to some of the discussion about how this came to be, because it came to be during last council, and because I was part of the issue last council of inundating staff with every question under the sun. You remember at the time, you were the only member on council that had sat prior. It was you and 6 of us newbies, fresh could be, and we had been just inundating staff with questions, emails about everything under the sun. We were real keeners. We wanted to learn everything and understand why everything happened. And it came about, questions from council was originally designed so that all of these questions that council put in via email would be brought to the table and voted upon. That was the original intent, that we would pick and choose what questions got answered to. That was how it all started. And over the years, yeah, that was well, many years ago. And over the years, it's morphed to what it's become today. So even if I was to, because I'm kind of with Councillor Owens, I think said it, I've been really encouraging members of council to give their reports in this section, reports to council. I think I've even said it several times. This is the portion where you let the members of the public know what you're doing as your role of council. So I kind of do support that. If we were to go back to a questions from council, I would highly suggest that there would have to be parameters of what could and could not be asked, because it's operations. We're here to evaluate overall operations with large sums of data, not one-offs. And that's what it became. It had become one-off questions. In my practice, I have lots of members stopping in daily, you know, to ask me questions via email, social media, in my office. If a member of the public asks me a question, I go back to them with the answer, and I've built a level of trust that they know that what I say to them is what I would say to the next person and the next person and the next person. So I'm just really kind of leery in the way it's worded to just open it up. I think there needs to be more parameters. That's my issue with the way it's written. Councillor Dykens?
Yeah, Madam Mayor, I agree there needs to be parameters. It's not a free for all. It's not about operations, but I still don't believe that when we already passed a motion to have reports at certain times of the year and then have to, like, there's no, I know you said it was answered, but I have people who follow us very closely, and I have nothing to say to them about our financial situation, and I don't feel that I should have to have another motion to ask for something that was already had a motion and voted on. So I'm just not sure how we would get there. I'm not looking for, again, a free for all, trying to run operations. That's not what it is at all. There needs to be a different avenue than to have to do another motion for something that we've already. So that's what I'm looking.
So, sorry, just to clarify that, do you not feel that you have the opportunity or access to the CAO to say?
It's not me, it's we're not allowed to more than.
So if members of public are saying, hey, you guys passed this a year ago and we haven't seen it yet, do you not go to the CAO Smith and say, hey, you know what, this was brought to my attention, how come it hasn't come back? CAO Smith would then say to you, this is the reason, XYZ, staffing, computer issues, whatever the issue is, and you go back to that member of public and saying, I followed up with the CAO who said XYZ. You're not comfortable with that mechanism of public?
No, that's not the comfort thing. It was a thing of council that we are expecting a report, and it wasn't forthcoming and nothing was said. And then I did go to CAO Smith and he explained, but that's after the fact that this report was expected in August and it wasn't forthcoming. And so that's why I shouldn't have to do another motion to get that. So anyways, I'm gonna leave it at that because I think we're arguing different things.
Yeah. Okay, anything, Councillor Shava?
I just want to very quickly say this. When we had that item on the agenda before, I cannot recall any items coming to council without first of all going through the CAO for discussion. You mean everything this is not about got you. I'm not into that. And to say, well, because of the volume of questions that are coming, I really did not see that. Where the same argument we put forward for the volume of notices of motions that we're passing. I mean, did anybody ever find out how many percentage of those ever get acted upon because staff didn't have time? You can make the same argument too. So I did not see any abuse of questions to staff where we had people. I mean, of all the people sitting here, I'm probably one of, maybe now with Councilor Dykens, that the public can come to my office, they know where I am, and sit down and say, well, I want to talk to you about council thing. I said, what? I have access to them, they have access to me. At the end of the day, I have to discern which topics that I will take to the CEO to discuss with them or with you. And then figure out which topics I'm gonna bring to the public so that they know I'm doing my job, because I was selected to do my job here. And that job is to represent people. So if I bring their concerns here, and if I get an answer 2 weeks or 2 months down the road, that's fine. At least I've done my job to bring those questions here. So we can't be talking about transparency and accountability and try to fall short on both of them. So they have to see us working. Working means to bring their issues forefront to the table here. Yes, there are other sensitive issues that you have to address with the CEO, you have to address, so I get that. And again, not one single item that has come here during questions to staff. I don't remember one not going through the CEO, because they get that in advance. They get the questions in advance. If it's operational in nature, then they tap you on the shoulder like, hey, we can't bring this in as operational. Okay, I back off. That's it. So I don't see this pushback. Yeah, we make that wholesale thing. Well, we have to be accountable to the public. Public have to see us doing that job. We can't be telling them, hey, we're transparent, but hey, where's my question? What's going on? I mean, I don't know, maybe I shouldn't go off tangent here. The government is getting pissed off with the school board now taking over school boards. And that's just the beginning. There'll be more. Maybe municipality will be next because they see us not doing our job, or the public not seeing us doing our job. So this is just a simple request that I don't think is very harmful to anyone, to give us that opportunity to engage the stakeholders.
Thank you for that. Councillor Owen.
I just want to make a quick comment. Although it's not my style, if I went to the CAO and got an answer and I had a social media presence, I could get that out to everybody just by putting the answer on the social media presence. And if that were my style, I would consider that part of my job. And so, you know, there's nothing like that's transparent. And we all have the option of doing that if you're comfortable doing that. So.
Thank you for that. Councillor Dykens.
Just one comment, Madam Chair. You're the voice of Councillor Rick Owen, but we're the voice of the whole collective council, and I think that's the difference.
Thank you for that. I do appreciate that. I just do want to note again, reiterate that we do have notices of motion and we do have reports from councillors to provide that transparency that I think we're speaking about. So I'm still not 100%. Yeah, I'm not 100% on the way it's written, but anything further from members of council? Okay, nothing further. All in favor? Opposed? The motion is defeated. Motion is defeated.
No, the motion is carried.
No, it's lost. Because it was a tie.
Tie vote. It's a no.
Thank you for that. Item number 10, readings and considerations of bylaws. Bylaw number 10.1, bylaw number 25-079, execution bylaw lease agreements for corporate leased fleet management program enterprise, moved by Councillor Dykens, seconded by Councillor Casey Owens.
Be it resolved that the following bylaw be read a first and second time. Bylaw number 2579, being a bylaw authorizing the execution of various agreements with Enterprise Fleet Management Inc. for the adoption of a corporate lease fleet management program.
All in favor? Opposed? Item carried. Item, the next, I don't know, second and third readings, moved by Councillor Dykens and seconded by Councillor Casey Owens.
Be it resolved that the following bylaw be read a third time and numbered, passed, signed, and sealed. Bylaw number 2579.
All in favor? Opposed? Item carried. There's no title to read on that section, so I'm still getting used to it. Item number 10.2, bylaw number 25-080, execution bylaw services agreement for GovStack website platform, GHD Digital, moved by Councillor Dykens, seconded by Councillor Shaba.
Be it resolved that the following bylaw be read a first and second time, bylaw number 2580, being a bylaw authorizing the execution of a services agreement with GHD Digital Inc. for the implementation of the GovStat CMS platform, which is the corporate website.
All in favor? Opposed? Item carried unanimous. Second and third reading mover. Counselor Dykens, seconded by Counselor Rick Owen.
Be it resolved that the following bylaw be read a third time and numbered, passed, signed, and sealed, bylaw number 2580.
All in favor? Opposed? None noted. Item carried unanimous. Notices of motion. None noted at the table. Item number 12, council reports and committees of council, local, regional, board updates. Moved by Counselor Casey Owens, seconded by Counselor Rick Owen. Any members of council at this table wish to share any activities, anything that they've done on behalf of the municipality? Counselor Owen.
Yes, through you, your worship. I attended a DSAB meeting and departments within DSAB are now presenting their wish list to the board. It's too early in the process to predict the outcome. However, I fully anticipate that the amount Kirkland pays to DSAB will increase. I just have no idea by how much. And I emphasize that is a very early stage opinion. Okay. As well, I, along with the mayor, on opposite sides of the street, mind you, took part in the Christmas parade this year. And unlike other years where we actually walked the parade route, we walked the sidewalks this year, which I found actually better for what we were doing. And this year, we were handing out this phenomenal Kirkland Lake activity book. Now it's aimed for children, and it has all sorts of fun facts in it about Kirkland Lake. A lot of which, despite my long time living here, I did not know. And it also has like coloring and mazes and all sorts of different things. And I'm told that this book is a product of the Development and Enterprise Department? No.
So close.
Please, Dan, Director Dan, could you tell me the name of your department?
Development and Enterprise Services.
Yes,
Not where it was designed.
no, but that,
It was
paid. It was paid for by them. Anyways, the parents loved it because we weren't giving their kids candy. And the children loved it too. Okay. Again, this year there was a good turnout for the parade despite the cold temperature. And I have to comment on the quality of the floats. It was just amazing. I can't get over the amount of work that different groups and individuals and companies put into building these floats. I mean, it takes a lot for me to be impressed. And I was truly impressed with the quality of the floats. I think it was the best parade ever in that terms. After the parade, I went to the Stope, which is our multicultural organization's location on Government Road. And they were warming people up with hot chocolate and lots of socialization. I would like to mention that the high school students, I believe it's KLCVI students, KLDCS students, sorry, I dated myself there. Their photography work is still on display at the Stope and it is amazing. I highly recommend that people go into the stove, if for no other reason than to see the work that these students have done. It is very, very good. And I think that's it. Thank you.
Thank you, Counselor Dykens, and then Counselor Kylie.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. It might have been mentioned by others at this for a second, but, the Christmas Wish concert was unbelievable, on so many different levels. I didn't realize we had, well, I did. We have incredible talent in our area, but also it was for a great, cause and, just a positive community event those 2 nights. And over 250 kids get clothes, like significant amounts and toys. So that was one event. I know there's events all over town, but I wanna mention the magic of Christmas. I was at the preview party, which really gave a very thoughtful, wonderful talk. She's very gifted at public speaking. But I think at all times of the year, but especially this time when things are getting darker, Christmas is coming, and Christmas isn't always a great thing for every single person. And to have 6 days of loveliness, and that's how I describe it, loveliness. We just need to experience loveliness and beauty, and that's what the Magic of Christmas team and volunteers did. I'm incredibly proud to be part of Kirkland Lake. I met a resident there who says she follows us very, very closely, and she's very happy with how council is working through things. That's just one, but I just wanted to mention that. Thank you.
Thank you. Counselor Kylie?
Yeah, through your worship, further to Rick's, report on the DSAP meeting. There was the preliminary, portion of the budget, not all of it, but it was in the 7 to 8% range, which is not the finale, but it's a starting point. So we're definitely looking at, some type of an increase, and, we've been fortunate over the years in drawing from reserves. I think we're gonna have a tough time convincing, board members to go that route this year, so, be prepared, it's not good.
I would say thank you for that, but I don't know. Counselor Casey Owens?
Thank you for your Mayor. It's on a Board of Health meeting last week. It was very, very long meeting. One of the, there's certain things I won't go into details about, but there's one item I think that's interest. That is worth noting is. I had heard of this event before we merged with Legacy PHU, but the Board of Health was involved in coroner's inquest for the death of 5 individuals at Constant Lake 2 years back. And the verdict of the inquest was presented to us. Their recommendations were summarized, and certain aspects will trickle down to the municipal level at some point. So just as a heads up that something should be coming through the public health unit coroner's office on how to implement these recommendations that were presented to the board.
Thank you for that. Anything further from members of council? For my part, I do have 3 members of the community that I'd like to acknowledge. Again, I don't get to acknowledge everybody, but if I see a shout out on social media, that's where I'm picking these things up. We are working on a program currently that will be coming to really acknowledge people properly when they bring pride to Kirkland Lake. But until which time, we're just going to keep mentioning them and letting the public become aware of members of our public really achieving great things. So the first one is congratulations to Carter St. Jean, who competed in the 2025 Jiu-Jitsu World Championships in Bangkok, Thailand. Carter qualified in the ultra heavy blue belt division. So that's what an incredible achievement for a member of the Kirkland Lake community. The next one is Ryland Thomas, who was the main actor in the short film showcased at the Windsor International Film Festival. That their team working on the film took home 8 awards. So congratulations to Ryland and their team. And lastly, congratulations to star skater JP on successfully achieving his Star 4B dance Fiesta Tango. The requirements for the assessment involve completing 3 of 4 mandatory requirements, including timing, and 2 of 3 criteria for full pattern assessment must be silver or better. That really doesn't mean much to me, but figure skaters will totally get that. So congratulations to JP. Since last council, the Office of the Mayor has met with the CAO and staff regarding the aforementioned civic awards, attending meetings for Planet Youth with members of the public on a number of items of interest. I do encourage members of the public to not only stop me on the street, but also come into town hall. That's a great place to stop me about public interest items. Though I don't mind at the grocery store either. I gave a welcome at the now annual Magic of Christmas, as Councillor Dykins mentioned. I dropped off the first public gifting of our new Discover KL activity book, and I just want to say what an impact it's already made on community members. I've received so many requests from people that have found a personal connection to the items in that book. There's a lot of public pride that goes along with that book, and just kudos to the entire team that played a part in it. But also I want to shout out specifically Laura Durrell. She is our communications coordinator, and though she likes to be in the background, she does deserve a lot of kudos for not only her work on this book, but really for our overall messaging for the town of Kirkland on social media. She does an excellent job. So I wanted to shout out to her. And lastly, I was honored to be one of the celebrity judges for the talent competition at the LaSalle Theater. This concept was developed by a youth member, Jonah, who emceed the event. So congratulations to the winner of that event, Andrew, McKinley, and Kathy. I certainly look forward to seeing how that event will grow over the next coming years. Thank you for that. Madam Clerk.
Be it resolved that the verbal updates for members of council be received.
All in favor? Opposed? Item carried unanimous. Item number 13, proclamations and recognitions. There are none this evening. Item number 14, additional information and mayor's provincial policy matter. There are none this evening, and we will now take a 10-minute recess before moving into close. We'll now reconvene to move into closed, moved by Councillor Dykins, seconded by Councillor Casey Owens.
Be it resolved that council adjourn in camera pursuant to section 239(2) of the Municipal Act 2001 as amended to discuss a proposed or pending acquisition or disposition of land by the municipality or local board. Information explicitly supplied in confidence to the municipality or local board by Canada, a province or territory of a crown agency, or any of them, and the position, plan, procedure, criteria, or instruction to be applied to any negotiations carried on or to be carried on by or on behalf of the municipality or local board at 7:28 p.m. for the following reason. Item 15.1, request to purchase part of parcel 4198, section CST.
All in favor? Opposed? None noted. Item carried unanimous. We'll now rise from closed, move by Councillor Dykins, seconded by Councillor Kylie.
Be it resolved that council reconvene in open session at 7:50 p.m.
All in favor? Opposed? None noted. Item carried unanimous. There are no matters from closed session this evening. Item number 17, notices of reconsideration. Any member at the table wish to have any item decided this evening reconsidered? Nothing noted. Item number 16, confirmation bylaw 18, bylaw number 25-081, confirming proceedings, moved by Councillor Dykins, seconded by Councillor Rick Owen.
Be it resolved that the following bylaw be read a first, second, and third time numbered, passed, signed, and sealed. Bylaw number 2581 being a bylaw to confirm the proceedings of council at its meeting held Tuesday, December 2nd, 2025.
All in favor? Opposed? Item carried unanimous. I move for adjournment, seconded by Councillor Casey Owens. Thank you, everyone.